So I thought, you know what, let's just go for it. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but if I don't go, I'll regret it.
DorothyDoreen!
Hey guys, how's it going? I have a story to tell. It's an interesting one. So if you can't already tell by the lovely title, I auditioned for Disney. I've watched a couple of Disney audition experience videos in the past, but I figured I would share my story with you guys to kind of give you an insight on what it's like being a non-white person auditioning for Disney. Now, this was actually a couple months ago, and it's taken me a while to talk about it because I needed the time to process and take a step back to see the whole situation from a bigger perspective. So let's get into it. I was looking up all of my potential career options. I wanted to kind of see what career paths are practical, attainable, or maybe ones that I can work towards in the future. One of them happened to be cruise performer. I just started Googling, and what came up was Disney Cruise Line auditions. It was a Saturday that I was looking that up, and auditions were the following Tuesday. So I thought, you know what, let's just go for it. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but if I don't go, I'll regret it. On the website, they have a list of the different roles that they're looking to fill. Of course, there are the Disney princesses, but there's also a storyline with a daughter and a dad. It said culturally diverse are welcome to audition for this role, and I thought,
okay, I'm culturally diverse.
I wanted to audition for the daughter because I figured, of course, I'm not going to be able to be one of the princesses. But the role was a younger looking daughter, a soprano, and has like an energetic or enthusiastic attitude. I'm like, okay, I've played roles like that in the past. So Tuesday comes along and the audition is at 9 in the morning. I decided to wake up 3 hours earlier. I pretty much just warmed up while I was in the shower, thinking of all of the different warm-ups that I had remembered from high school. And like opening your jaw, massaging it. And once I got on the bus, I also listened to my songs nonstop. I heard that, you know, prepare another song just in case they want to hear more. The two songs that I chose were Defying Gravity, because that's kind of my go-to audition song. I feel like I have practiced it. I know it well enough to be confident in sharing that song. And the second song was Maybe from Annie. And the reason I chose that is, of course, because the role I was auditioning for was for a younger role. My friend Gio, if you remember her from my Stratford vlog, she reminded me that I had actually done that song for our musical theater class. So it was something that was familiar to me and something that I had a connection with prior. I arrived before 9 a.m. and it was at a dance studio. If you're from Toronto, it was right by Queen and Peter. Right when I got in there, this dance studio was full. Of course, I got into line as soon as I got there. I got to the front of the desk, I gave them my theater resume and a headshot, and I got my number, which was 105. So that means before I got there at 8:15, there were 104 other people there before me. So once I had gotten my number, I just found a spot on the floor, listened to music on my phone. I was able to count the number of minorities in the room by the fingers on my hand. There were literally 5 other minorities out of a group of about 150 people. Now, of course, that's kind of to be expected because most Disney roles are white. So that's kind of what the racial climate looked like in the room. But around 9:30, the recruiter came in the room, kind of gave a little bit of an intro of what the schedule would be like for the day, and also the schedule would be like for anyone who got through this round of auditions. One thing that the recruiter said is,
when it's your time to audition, don't tell me what role you want to audition for. That is for us recruiters to decide. Just give it your best, tell us a story, and we will go from there.
One girl started talking to me and she was saying,
oh, I have an agent, my agent found me.
There I am, just like,
yeah, I go to U of T.
I kind of felt inexperienced. I definitely felt inadequate, but I thought, you know what? You never know. Maybe there's someone that just sees you and will be like,
you know what? This girl could be that.
I kind of got my hopes up on that. Aside from being a minority, I was wearing like pretty much this. People had really nice dresses and heels and had their faces made up, and they just looked really good. If you're auditioning for a part, it's a good idea to dress the part. That way it kind of helps like the recruiter or whoever see you in that role. But again, every recruiter is looking for something different. And the thing about Disney is that they audition all over. Who knows? They might have already found that daughter role that I was looking to fill. They called about 10 people at a time. So I waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. It was like 11 o'clock, so 2 hours had passed. Me just sitting there. I decided to catch up on reading because I was behind on my readings for class. Eventually, 12:30 p.m. hit. And that was when the recruiter said,
"Hey guys, we're actually gonna take a lunch break. You guys can come back at 1:30.
At that point, we were at 80. So it was nice that we got a break to have lunch and stuff, but it just sucked that it took so long. Fast forward, had lunch, came back, only about like 60 of us left. I just sat there anticipating when they would say
100 to 110.
Once they called my number, we lined up. There we are in this hallway, and the recruiter tells us,
Once the person in front of you goes in and comes back out, you can go straight in. You don't have to wait for your name to be called.
I had both my songs with me, and in that very long time that I had to wait, I had decided I was going to stick with Defying Gravity. So I walk in, the recruiter says, "Hi, Dorothy." I say, "Hi, how are you?" "Good." I give my music to the accompanist. Accompanier. I give my music to the pianist. It was just her at a table with papers and a window behind her. The pianist is here, and I'm standing in the middle of the room. She says, "Whenever you're ready." So he starts, I sing, and immediately I notice her face, and I remember I am looking at the window and I start my song. And once I glance over to meet her eyes, I see that I'm not what she's looking for. And I remember that when she first introduced herself, before any of the auditions started, she said,
"I want you guys to tell me a story."
And I didn't think of it until I had finished my audition, had walked out of the studio, and started walking for school. She had said that because, of course, Disney was all about storytelling, right? And I was nervous. I was really nervous, but I know that vocally I gave it my best. I warmed up, projected, I had my emotion in there. If you look back to when you were a kid and it was story time, the best part would be when the storyteller has their storybook and looks you straight in the eye, right? She looks every single person in the eye. And I feel like that's what makes a good story, when you engage with someone eye to eye and remind them that, hey, this is a story that's worth listening to. Are you listening? And I feel like that's where I went wrong. Aside from the possibility that she probably already filled that role, or she was just tired, or aside from the fact of being a minority, I think that what I should have done was reflect more on how Disney is all about telling stories. Now, a couple of people before me, there was one guy who sang a song. We heard a little bit of a pause, and then he sang a different song. People who sang two songs were the ones who were more likely to get a callback, and they actually had callbacks the same day. So once my song was over, she said, "That was great. Thanks for coming out." And I said, "Thank you," took my music, and I left. I had already known that I didn't get it. I definitely felt discouraged, but of course that is kind of to be expected in this industry. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. As a minority, did I feel weird walking into a Disney audition? Of course. Walking into a room where there were 3 Asian people and 2 black girls and everyone else was white, it definitely felt weird, especially being in Toronto. But you can't control the color of your skin. And if you know that you have talent, then you can't let that stop you. And you can't let that hinder you from trying, from taking a chance. And if you are planning on auditioning for Disney or for anything, there are a couple of things that I do want to let you know. The obvious one, prepare well. Of course, there is the miraculous possibility that you will find an audition 3 days before, have very little time to prepare, and you will get the role. That didn't happen to me, obviously. Do I believe that if I had more time to prepare, I would have done better in my audition? Maybe, probably. There are also factors that have nothing to do with me, right? All I can do is make sure that I'm taking care of myself and preparing myself for this audition. In this scenario, I did not prepare myself well. Second thing to learn is to be strong. And everyone knows it, you know. There are stock characters. There are certain traits that come up in your head when you hear Cinderella or Tinkerbell versus hearing Jasmine or Moana. And it can be difficult when you know that you don't measure up, and you don't want to try to be something that you're not either. You want to make sure that you're being yourself. And I think this is what stops me from auditioning more than I do right now. It's because I'm afraid. I'm afraid of rejection. I'm afraid of putting all my effort into something and not getting the outcome I want. And I know that's life, but feel like, especially in the auditioning world, it's definitely rough on your self-esteem and your self-identity. I was recently talking to someone about how art is a way of expressing yourself and how it takes a lot of courage to be able to put yourself out there, to get completely uncomfortable in the situation, yet remain comfortable in your own skin. I think it's important to really listen to yourself and think, is this something that I really want to do? If it's something that you want to do, regardless of the situation and every single excuse you can think of, and regardless of what you think the outcome will be, and regardless of the outcome, like in this case, I didn't get the role. I waited for 7.5 hours to sing a 30-minute song, and I never heard back. It definitely took a toll on my self-esteem at the time, but I think that it is moments like these where, as Aaliyah said, if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again. Try again! I know that's so cheesy, but I realize how much I have limited myself because I allowed myself to say no, and I allowed other people's rejection to define me. I'm preaching to myself. Anyways, that is all for my story. I know this was pretty long, but I hope that it gave you insight in one way or another. If you have any more questions about what it was like auditioning for Disney, put them in the comments below. If you got this far in the video, thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.